Race 22.
Race 22 Podcast.
Hey Motorheads, thank you for clicking on Race 22 Podcast.
Race 22 Podcast.
All right, we're here, Race 22 Radio, well, sort of. This is just me and Corey Latham. I'm Langley Austin, the host. Had some technical difficulties last night and didn't get on the air tonight either. Internet connection here in the big city of Copper Hill, Virginia. Corey, at least I'm glad to get you on the phone, if nothing else.
Yeah, the phone works. Yeah, that was some pretty major technical difficulties.
Yeah, it was fun times at PRW last night. So we won't dive into that, but fun times down there. Hopefully we'll get Roger back on next week, get everything back squared away on that. But whatever, we'll kind of one of those deals. Sometimes it rains out a race, and sometimes gigantic technical difficulties keep us from going on the air. So.
You'll have that in big-time auto racing.
That's right. Man, you headed to Motor Mile this weekend, and honestly, I have to be honest with you, I can't believe that you skipped out on Bowman Gray. I mean, it was only their second race of the year, and, I mean, things been pretty intense down there. I can't believe you skipped out on that and headed to Motor Mile.
Yeah, after the Saturday morning practice at Bowman Gray, I really wanted to go because that looked pretty exciting. That went viral pretty quick. And,
yeah.
Yeah, that was a knockdown drag out over there. But, I wanted to go to Motor Mile. I like to get there at least once a year, and since they don't really race there anymore, it was a good chance to go up there and had a good field of cars and good little race up there.
Yeah, incredible field of cars for them. I mean, between the Supers and the late model stocks, they had 55 cars, 28 and 27. I mean, the car store, man, even on the Super side, they're continuing to keep car count like nobody else.
Well, I think how they treat people and everything, and now you see, we got Bubba Pollard just trying to make every race now, and this guy's got so many other options he could race at Supers all the time. He really likes the way the cars does their stuff, and I mean they treat their racers well, and they run their race well. So I mean it's a great place to race and pays good, so it's a good deal.
Speaking of Bubba Pollard, man, him and Matt Craig made that super late model race. I mean, it was fairly boring for the most part, but those two kind of got to, jacking each other up in the middle of the point of the race there, and Bubba had some interesting things to say after the race, too. So, I mean, at least they're kind of, giving some excitement.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Craig's been known to be a little rough sometimes for the, up in the top 2 or 3 spots. Yeah, he's pissed a lot of people off. But then, as soon as he did that, Bubba Pollard, I don't see many people just running into his car and stuff. And he doesn't, I met him before, and he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to take well to that. And he didn't. And he pretty much put on his skill there at the end and just, won the race. But then after the race, he pretty much said that, you start hitting this 26 car and bad things are going to happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely didn't mince words after the race there. Really interesting, and I mean, Matt Craig didn't give a crap, and we knew that was going to be the case because obviously, you said he's making friends everywhere, and he doesn't care one way or the other.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. I mean, he's got a lot of people. Preston's probably going to be at his Christmas party. Now Bubba Pollard, and, he's had it out with a lot of them. And I mean, he's got that new Kyle Busch chassis, and I mean, that thing's fast. It's real fast. I didn't think Bubba had nothing for him, but then again, I should have used my brain a little better and remembered who it was. And, he's like a tiger just sitting there waiting, waiting on his prey. And when it was time to go, he was going.
Yeah, and on that one restart where they called it back there, Matt Craig, he didn't go by a lot, but man, he went by just enough that the car store called him on that restart, and then on the next one, man, Bubba just put it on him.
I don't know. Well, on TV it might have looked a lot. Being there live on the front straightaway, I was actually standing there talking to Michael Falk, and he just took his headset off and just started laughing. He said, "My God, yeah, it was pretty bad." Because he took off, and then Bubba seen him where he was already gone. He just didn't go, so it made it look worse than what it was. Which that's what he's supposed to do,
Right, playing games. That's what you got to do. And Bubba won that game, and then won the race. So I mean,
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
It was a decent race. It was good. I'm glad, I was wondering if I said one of these races, they're going to kill each other. And I thought the super race was going to be it, but they did pretty good. Everybody didn't. There was a lot of give and take the whole race.
Yeah, it was a really good race, and that late model stock car race wasn't nearly as good. I mean, you had the big wreck there. I think just after lap 80, I believe is when it was, and I mean the race got good at the end, but man, it wasn't much of a race in between.
No, and I mean I talked to drivers after the race. It's just, and I don't know. I've been to Motor Mile, 30, 40 times in my life, and it's just. Great facility, great track. It's just really hard to pass. Once you get going, I talked to a few drivers, and they said, it's a great track to practice at. He said, but once you get in a race, it's like you're practicing because you can't pass anybody unless you're ridiculously faster than them.
Right.
There's not just being a little bit faster, you can get around somebody. You just can't. It's so hard to pass, and then, nothing was going on until we had that big wreck, and that, I think it was Tanner Gray in the 17? Yeah.
Taylor Gray.
No, Taylor, yeah. He got loose off turn 4 and just kept hammering it and drifted it all the way down, halfway down the straightaway. And I said, well, something's going to happen here. And he was fine until he let off the gas to save it. When he let off the gas to save it, the car about stopped, and then it all went to hell from there.
Yeah, that pretty much took out both of the DGR cars. Drew Dollar got into it, obviously. Camden Gully took a pretty hard hit. Jonathan Finley up in the air. I mean, that was a pretty big wreck.
Car, that was a brand new car, and the whole rear clip of that thing's gone. So, yeah, it tore up some stuff for sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Interesting, interesting part of the race for sure, and probably the most interesting other than the finish. Obviously, that whole deal there. Man, coming down to the finish, of course, the way the rules work in the Cars Tour, they took the white flag twice and still didn't get a finish. And of course, on that second one, Bobby McCarty pulled a crossover move and got up underneath of Josh Berry and raced down into turn 1 and bounced off the side of him. What was your take on what happened there?
I mean, I was standing right there watching it. It's just, it's good from my point because I'm real good friends with both guys. So right. I don't have I'm not going to be biased either way. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's the end of the race and Bobby's adrenaline's probably going. Josh has kicked their ass the whole race. You know what I mean? Right. I mean, the guy led the whole race and nobody had if they didn't have the cautions, Josh was going to win the race.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. He had the car beat. I don't even know if he was showing all he had,
Right.
And, I mean, it wasn't like he just went in there and just drove straight and dumped him. But, I mean, yeah, he hit him and it spun him. So, I mean, I don't guess it matters how it happened, but it happened,
Right.
And Josh split out. And then after that, I thought that Justin Carroll had that one. I can't believe Bobby took the high side on the restart, but then I talked to a few drivers after the race, and a lot of them said, they would never done that, but then there was a few of them that they could not get their car going on the inside, and they said the same thing. They would have had to take the outside for a restart like that. And right. But he spun the tires, and he managed to stay on the outside up the whole time. I thought off the back straightaway that Justin was going to clear him, but he got back beside him, and then 3 and 4, and then coming to the checkered flag, Justin told me, he tried to run him up high like he's supposed to, but he let off and tried to dive in the corner, and that's what
right.
screwed him up. He should have just kept him pinned high, and you can watch the video. When he gets off of him a little bit, that's when Bobby got his momentum going on the outside. That's actually what won the race for him at the end by a couple feet.
Yeah, it was definitely an exciting finish, and I'm sure Justin has looked back at that 15 different times and said, "Man, I could have done this differently," and got the win. I'll tell you what I was surprised about, and not saying that Bobby wrecked him intentionally or anything, just the way Cars Tour has kind of called races in the past. I was really shocked that first they didn't put Brandon Pierce to the rear when him and Ryan Repko got into it, and I mean I realized that those two beat the absolute crap out of one another for several laps there before they actually got him turned, and then there at the end with Bobby and Josh, I'm really surprised that the Cars Tour officials, Chris Regal, didn't elect to put either one of those guys to the rear.
And I'm pretty sure that everybody there, I mean, we just kind of expected it, we just
right.
thought it was going to happen like that, and thought this is what it's going to be,
right?
And then they didn't do it, and I said, well, wait a minute, we're racing again. What's going on here?
Right.
So I don't know, and I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing. Like I said before, either do it one way or the other. Just, don't jump back and forth. Either let them race or call it the same way every time. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know, but like we've always said, it sucks to let an official's call
right.
dictate a race,
especially at the end.
Yeah, at any time, but especially at the end. But that one was even more hard because it wasn't like it was battling for the lead all night, people coming and going where it didn't matter. This one guy dominated. He led every lap. So I don't know. Hard call. I'm glad I'm not the one making it, but the car store's done a great job in the past by doing things the right way. So hopefully, it just keeps getting done the right way. If this is the way it's going to be, it needs to be like it every time.
Well, I mean, we can definitely say that in both of those instances, it was called exactly the same way. So, and I mean, if you look back at Southern National when Preston Peltier and Mason Diaz got together. Mason Dunn couldn't drive his way out of a wet paper bag, but Mason Diaz, they got together. Preston turned him around. Preston said that, he got loose in front of him, and they called it the same way, so they didn't put Preston in the back. So that was another instance where, they didn't, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think they put Preston in the rear when he got into Bubba at Hickory. So
yeah, I mean, and these are the best drivers around going. I mean, these guys aren't out here to wreck each other. I mean, not saying that they won't do it if need be,
right.
But I mean, it's not like it's a habit. It's not like we're having races that are 5 hours long and cars tore all to hell because people are running over each other. I mean,
right.
This is racing. You're racing a race car. I mean, you're going to bump and grind. It's going to happen, and it's hard to say, hey, did this guy mean to do it or got pitchy down and he got into him? I mean, it's hard to call it.
Nine times out of 10, it's just a judgment call no matter what. So, I mean, and to their judgment, they thought it was just hard racing. And hey, who are we to second guess them? So, other races going on this weekend. Well, hold on. I mean, you got anything else? On the Cars Tour? Anything else come out of the night? Comes to mind?
I mean, it was like you said, there's just not a whole lot of racing going on. Before the race, I talked to Brandon Pierce, and he said, "Lou, my car I can drive my car on the apron." He said, "Nobody else can do that." And I said, "Well, show me." And so, there's cars single file, 4 wide, the 2 car on the inside, single file, 3 wide, the 2 car on the inside. So I'll say that Brandon Pierce did make it exciting. He was everywhere. But, it wasn't hitting nobody, but you're just looking at this dude's like, he's way on the outside, way on the inside. He had a real good car, but like I said, he qualified like 10th. In that track position, I mean, just 10th don't sound like very far back at a 125-lap race, but when 9 cars in front of you are all badass too, that qualifying position means a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much time separating, the top 10 qualifiers in the Car Tour these days. I mean, even less so than, on a weekly show, and weekly shows are just as tight. So, I mean, it definitely makes it hard to make up any ground. That's why I like, Motor Mile. You talked about, the racing wasn't that great, but, I mean, the first race they had a few weeks ago, man, it was a really good, the first late model stock race was really good. All the other divisions were pretty good. The second late model stock race wasn't nearly as good. But the first one, man, they had that redraw and, different people, qualified different positions, but, started, other places, and it definitely mixed the race up. And made things interesting there for sure. So hopefully that's something that'll keep their racing going good going forward. Other races around the region. Kingsport raced on Friday night. Nick Williams took home another win, and again this week, a little bit controversially, him and Nate Monteith got together on about lap 12 or something in the race, and got knocked out. Nate got knocked out of the race, backed into the inside front stretch wall. I watched a video. I can't really tell, exactly what happened. I'm not going to try to, judge that. But and then later on, I guess Nick and Zeke Shell got into it. And of course, last week it was Nick and a couple other different racers, Ronnie McCarty and Bryson Dennis and Hayden Woods. So Nick making some noise up there, getting the wins, but I don't think he's making any friends.
Well, you bring your friends with you to the track.
You're right.
So, and Kingsport's a rough and tumble place. I mean, I don't know how you can race there and not have somebody pissed off at you.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
I mean,
that's a real bull ring.
No, just racing clean and getting around there. I mean, if you're not rooting and gouging there and moving somebody out of the way, you're finishing 7th.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Joey Trent got another second-place finish, inching closer to getting his first win. Really good guy, and I hope he gets him a win soon. Wayne Hale finished 3rd. Good run for those guys for sure. Southeast Super Trucks had a race Saturday night at Anderson Motor Speedway. Really hate that we weren't able to cover that race in some way, shape, or form this weekend. Kenneth Hedden took home the victory. Clint King finished second. Ashton Higgins was third. Ed Surratt qualified on the pole. Didn't start there, but finished fourth. Sounded like a pretty good little race down there this weekend for those guys.
Yeah, the trucks, and that's truck series. I mean, and especially that group of racers, they put on a great show everywhere they go, and it doesn't matter. And they've got great car count, but even if they had 7 trucks, it would still be one of the most badass shows you've ever seen, because just the way those guys race each other and the respect they have for each other. They're such good racers in that whole series that it's always a good show. Yeah, I was wearing my Kenneth Hedden shirt mowing the yard a little while ago.
I'm sure he appreciates that. And they had 17 trucks. So like you said, they had really good car count. In the limited late model race, Ralph Carnes won the race, but was disqualified later. And I don't have the information on why he was disqualified, but Tanner Brookshire ended up with the win. TJ Lawless finished second, and Terry Smith was third. So really good deal there for sure. Bowman Gray, as we mentioned earlier, you weren't there, but Tim Brown and Carson Ware, I guess they're teammates. Is that what I read?
Well, that's the house car I think that Tim got. That I think the Speenies used to drive it or something. And it's just the extra car they got. Gotcha. And that kid drove it. And from what I understood, he started on the pole or started outside pole, got the lead, and just drove away from him.
Yeah, and they split the wins there. In the sportsman race, Amber Lynn getting her first win, and Justin Taylor, I believe that was his first win as well.
Yeah, Justin, I think Justin's won a couple races, but Justin almost pulled off the double, which hadn't been done. I think Derek did it a couple of years ago, and before that, it was a long time before you pulled off the double, because, I mean, over there you draw for position to start the race. So, right. And then you redraw for the second race, so you only got 20 laps to get it done, so it's real hard to do, and Justin finished first and second in both those races. So, yeah, and going back to the modified race, I mean, they just run those twin 25-lappers.
Right.
And which absolutely suck complete ass. They're just terrible. I mean, they're just awful. I mean, it's right around those type of cars. I mean, and the quality of cars.
Tell us how you really feel, Corey.
Do what?
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I mean, everybody. I don't know anybody. One fan, somebody chimed in and say, you know what? I really like those things. No, they suck. They're terrible. And we had James Savali as a guest on the other week, and so the first race he wrecks Burt Myers. He's the Myers are real fans of him now.
I bet.
And John Boy just beat the wheels off the back of Tim Brown's car. Bo was just over a little while ago, John Boy's brother, and I mean I wasn't there, but he was there. He said, but I've never seen Tim Brown drive that great. John Boy was just beating the fire out of him.
Right.
So these guys, like people said, John Boy, Brandon Ward, James Savali, they're riding around crap we've always done. They're just not going to do it anymore. And I think it's going to make the racing a lot better, which it already has by the 200 lapper we had.
Right.
And Savali said he's come back this week. They're running twin 25s again, which we have a 100 lapper for the sportsman, which ought to be one of their biggest races of the year, which ought to be really good. But he said he's not even going to put the front bumper on it. So,
I mean, he's not well. He's going to use that thing up. I seen a picture of it. It was pretty good and well used up this week too. So.
Oh yeah.
Dominion Raceway. They held a late model stock race. It was a makeup race. Philip Morris won the first race. Tyler Hughes took the checkered flag in the second race in what was somewhat of a photo finish there. But Tyler, I seen on Dominion's Facebook page today that
he was disqualified, and now he'll finish second 3 weeks from now, and then 2 months from now when they have a race, they're going to put him as the winner. But the second race, I don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't understand. I just don't understand that whole deal.
I don't know, man.
I mean, you get DQ from the race, but you're not disqualified. We just take a few spots from you.
Right.
Well, if I'm the guy in 6, I'm pissed.
Right. Right.
I mean, hell, my car's legal, and this guy still beat me, and he's got a cheated car, and y'all know it.
Right.
I don't understand it, but whatever. I mean, it's something different. I mean, I guess they're trying something.
It's definitely interesting for sure.
Yeah, I can't keep up with it.
Oh gosh, Jeff Oakley ended up with the win there in the second race. Not sure what happened to Philip Morris in the second race, But Florence Motor Speedway had that big $4,444 to win limited late model race, which, as we found out through the course of the week on a post I think you made, those really aren't limiteds. They're kind of more like Chargers, which, I mean, they're similar, but, not the same. But Blaze Howe took the victory down there. I haven't really seen a rundown of the races or, what happened or anything like that. But I did see that Blaze
much, which is sad because, 3 days before the race, I see where they're giving $4,000 to win for a race or $2,000. They're paying great money, but I just don't nobody know about it, and you don't know what's going on, kind of.
Right.
We just had to. $4,400 to win. I mean, and which before I didn't know this at the time, but as a limited race, I was like, well, hell, if I advertise that 3 months in advance, I should have 25, 30 cars.
Right.
You know, and it paid through the field. Like second was $2,000, third was $1,500. I mean,
it was really good.
It paid decent, but then come to find out that everybody that's got a limited couldn't even run their car there. So
right, definitely disappointing. Like I said, I don't know how many cars they had. Maybe somebody will chime in on RACE22 once we get this posted up and let us know. But they really ought to work on trying to get the word out there a little bit better. I mean, I think they did a good job late in the going getting the word out there, but I'm just not sure that they I think they could have took a little bit more time there and really hit a home run with that. Hickory, Vince Midas took the victory in the first late model stock car race, and Jake Crum in Annabeth Barnes' car, or his Annabeth Barnes Crum, his wife in her car, took home the victory in the second race. It's good to see Jake get back to victory lane.
I mean, he could get in like a Barbie scooter and win the race. I mean,
right.
Jake's a wheel man. I mean, it's good to
100%.
see him driving anything because it's going to be exciting and he's going to be up there racing for the win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hopefully he'll get to run some more races. In the limited late model Big Ten Series, Josh Kosick took home the win. Over at Langley Speedway, it was Armed Forces Night, and I know that means a lot to all the racers out there. They call it something, the Cup, but Greg Edwards took home the victory in that 14-car field there. And over at South Boston, probably I'd say it kind of qualifies as an upset, even though he's been right there with them. But Trey Cruz took home the victory in the late model stock race. So, I mean, are you surprised to see him win this quickly, or were you expecting it?
Well, I mean, I didn't see a whole lot about the race, but then I was keeping up with qualifying, and looking there, and I was looking at the qualifying thing, and, Lee's like fifth, Lenny was like eighth. I mean, it was these young guys are stepping up there, and, and Trey, though, ever since watching him, last year, winning limited races and stuff, and then, jumping into some late model races, he has never yet, to me, I've never looked at him and always this, and this is how I judge driver. If I say, damn, that was stupid,
right.
He has not once yet for me to go, damn, that was stupid, Right. He improves every race and just gets better and better and better. And I think he's going to be a good little driver for a long time to come.
Yeah. Definitely for sure, and driving for Steve Stallings. They got good equipment, and they can keep him up front. So hopefully he'll be in the mix there all year. For the championship, and that'll be good. Maybe since Philip's not running there now for the championship, maybe it'll be come down between Peyton and Trey. And I know Trey had some bad luck at first race. But maybe it'll come down between Trey and Lee and Peyton, and that'd be a heck of a three-way battle for the championship there for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, being in, they had a good field of cars too, being that the car store is right across town, same state or wherever down the road.
Yeah, they had 18 of them, so that's pretty good. And what's funny is every racetrack that has that runs asphalt late model stocks in Virginia was competing on the same night this past weekend. Every track. And ironically enough, every track had pretty good car count. I mean, we talked about the 28 cars that was over for the car store race. 18 cars at South Boston. There were 14 cars at Langley and 14 at Dominion. Which I think they got some starting parks in there and made it 16. I'm not sure NASCAR's going to let them away with that, but we'll see what happens. I believe it was some of their limiteds or they drug some cars out of the woods or something. I'm not really sure what happened there, but they didn't have that many early in the day practicing, and that's usually a pretty good indicator of some shenanigans going on with starting parks.
I heard 11 cars.
Yeah, that's what was there earlier in the day, I believe, on the practice charts. I believe, looking through the list, I believe I can get to 14 legitimate ones. But I think the first race showed 17 cars, and I don't know, man. It's one of those deals where I think Kevin Neveline with NASCAR is probably going to be looking at that result sheet pretty hard and trying to figure out exactly what they did to get that many on there. So.
Yeah, I don't think so. But anyway.
Oh no, that's they've been pretty hard about that. I mean, they came out last year and said that they were gonna work really hard at not letting racetracks do that. And I know of a couple racetracks last year that their results that they sent in ain't the ones that got published for points. So. They're definitely looking at that, and I think it happened not just here, but across the country. I think that's one reason why 2 years ago it took them so long to decide whether Lee or the guy out there in California was the champion. Because they were trying to make sure that all the cars were legitimate. That's what they were doing. So, and I don't think that was on the part of Lee. I think that was on the part of the guy out there because I heard quite a few stories. So,
looking down the list now, I don't. Well, no, Anthony Andrews on there, so it's probably good. It's probably cool.
Yeah, he definitely set the bar on starting parks for sure. No doubt about that. But hey, he got the national championship out of it and made him start looking at it harder. So I guess he did his job. I don't know.
For sure.
Lot of racing coming up this weekend. Got Friday, Kingsport Speedway, Wake County Speedway, both be in action with late models this Friday. I believe I'm headed to Kingsport Friday, so looking forward to going there. I wanted to go to Orange County this weekend, and then I realized they don't race Saturday, which is really weird. I don't know, South Boston's off. I'm not really sure why they're not racing, but whatever. But like you said earlier, Bowman Gray's got the Sportsman 100. I expect that's probably where you'll be this weekend.
Yeah, I'll be there Saturday and Friday. Yeah, Friday I'm not going to no races.
Gotcha. Yeah, I look to see, because I know we've had this conversation in the past about not knowing when Ace is racing. I look to see if they were racing Friday, and they're not. So looking forward to going to their next race next weekend. Hopefully they'll have a good turnout for it and get the word out there for sure. We kind of had that conversation. I don't know if you got to listen back last week on the recording that me and Doc and Roger did last week, but we kind of had that conversation about nobody knowing, outside of their little circle, nobody knowing about the race there, and how kind of people kind of took the post that you made. I felt like they took that post wrong. I didn't feel like you were trying to bash the track. You were just trying to say, hey, if you get the word out there, people will come.
Well, my post did exactly what I intended it to do.
Yeah.
People's talking about it, and people know about it. And people, and not in a negative way. Maybe people now, they'll look for RACE Speedway, because I would love to see 20 cars. That's my home track, man. I've been going there forever, I'd like to see 20 cars there and the stands full.
Yep.
But, I had a big concert this week. Better Railroad, somebody. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't know how the crowd was. I'm wondering how the crowd was for that deal. I'm sure it was good being who it was, but
yeah, I've seen some pictures. It looked decent.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Also you got Dillon Motor Speedway being in action this weekend with late models. Dominion has.
Bill Flynn that runs Street Stations officially sent me a message saying, everybody knows it's like his $5 fan appreciation night down there, so it's $5 to get in.
Man, that'll be really good. That's $5. $5. That's a really good show down there. Dylan Ron Barfield always puts on a great show down there. $5. That'll be a really good show. Dominion Raceway will be in action this weekend with twin 60-lap late model stock car races. I believe it's a makeup from one of their previous rainouts. East Carolina Motor Speedway has late model stocks, and that's about all we can tell you, and we probably won't know who won when the weekend's over with because they do a really poor job of letting people know. So
didn't they just, what was it, 2 years ago when they had a resurgence, and wasn't it just 2 or 3 years ago we had everybody's wanting to go there and we knew all about it. Now I don't even know the place exists, you know?
Well, and I think, part of that is, and we've talked about this on the show several times, but the part of that is, I think, they don't have as good a car counts as they think they should have, so they just don't put out results, you know what I mean? And that's the wrong way to go about it. Just tell people. People don't really care. The diehards that want to go to a race, they're going to a race anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like way back in the day. I did PR for people that suck complete ass that are really, really good now. But
Right.
but if you read my article about it, you would think, damn, this dude did good, you know?
Yeah.
That's the way you got to sell your track. I don't care if you had 6 cars there. Make it sound like it was the most exciting race in the world. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you got to do. I mean, somebody's got to be promoting somewhere. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but Florence is back in action this week. I believe they're kind of having a pissing contest with Dillon. I seen they had like a 2,000 to win.
Truck race or something.
Yeah,
I
I believe it's the first truck race of the year at Dillon as well. So I believe they're in kind of a pissing contest with one another. And
Well, they tried that. I mean, it's not even the same guy there. I mean,
right.
And then the South Carolina region, is that's one place you can't be doing that. You got to work together, especially 2 tracks that are across friggin' towns from each other.
Right.
You know?
Right. For
I
sure.
mean, those 2 tracks are right there, and they can do really well. You got to work with each other a little bit, not have a piston contest. Yeah, there's no way that's going to work.
Yep, I agree 100%. Greenville Pickens Speedway will be back in action this weekend. Hickory, of course, has a 80-lap late model stock car race and the Big Ten limited race. And then Sunday, probably will be, one of the bigger races of the weekend. Carteret County Speedway has the 4th annual Memorial Day Classic. Usually that's a pretty good race. I went last year. Don't think I'm going to make it this year. They announced today that they were doing twins in the late model stocks. Heard some different guys heading down there, maybe some of the Cars Tour guys going and getting some laps in. I believe Boo Boo Dalton, last time I talked to him, he said he was going down there this weekend. So it should be quite an interesting race Sunday at Carteret.
Yeah, I actually thought hard about going down there, but I have to see because ACC baseball tournaments this weekend and Georgia Tech's #1 seed, so they play Sunday at 12, so we'll see.
Georgia Tech. Man, ain't nobody want to watch them.
Yeah. And speaking of Boo Boo Dalton, he's like 4th in points at Bowman Gray. Yeah, he's 4th in points.
And maybe that plays into him changing his mind and sticking to racing at Bowman Gray. I know, I believe he's been having a pretty good time over there. They've been having fun, anyways. So
well, I don't think they're not racing this weekend, so that's really going to kill him in a big race like that. So I mean, he said on his Facebook, I guess that must be what they're getting ready for. Get part of that, not race there.
Yeah, I mean, I know that was the plan early on, was for him to go to Carteret. I know he was looking forward to going down there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Bowman Gray will be, with that 100-lap sportsman race. I'm sure that'll be the place to be this weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it and see what happens, and hopefully all the, I mean, I love draw as much as anybody, but some of that ignorance, I just hope it ends, with certain people, and hopefully it did. They got it out of their system the other day, and we can just race cars again and do like we've been doing.
Yeah, I'm sure, I mean, usually things ramp up there and then they kind of die off for a little bit and kind of ramp back up again. And they ramped up way early this season, so maybe they'll cool off a little bit and just get back to racing. Because that sportsman division, man, I mean, I watched some of the videos. I haven't been to Bowman Gray since 2004 or 2005, but, man, watching the videos, that sportsman division, that's probably, between that and the stadium stocks, that's probably the best race in there.
Well, I mean, sportsman division to me, and it's come so far in the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And it's went from that stigma that, everybody's Bowman Gray is a bunch of crazy idiots and people fighting and hitting each other head on, and that was somewhat true. I mean, it happened every once in a while, so everybody just magnified the hell out of it like it happens every race. You know what I mean?
Right.
But now these cars, I mean, these cars are, they put a lot of work in these cars, and this ain't just some stuff they thrown together. And I mean, they race each other hard, but gone are the days of just trying to kill each other and looking like fools and having a caution every 3 laps. I mean, I've seen it's to me, it's some of the best racing I've seen anywhere in the past 4 or 5 years. When I could watch, a couple of years ago, the best race I ever seen was Robbie Brewer and Derek Stoltz beat the hell out of each other, but give respect so much. They changed the lead 8 or 9 times in a 20-lap race, but if you not get the guy sideways, let him save it. Pass him, they do the same thing to you, let him save it. I mean, it's a good race though. There's a lot more give than take now, I think.
Right. I think, over the years, the mindsets of most of the racers have probably changed. The cost has gone up, and, it makes you race a little differently. You might not want to tear your car up as much as you were willing to in the past.
Yeah. And I see, Tim Brown, that was his 90th win over there. 90 wins.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
Where does that put him on the all-time list there?
Oh, he's first. He's way first.
Okay, got you.
Way past first. And AJ won a mini stock race, so I think he's won 6,464 races.
Yeah, that's probably fairly accurate right there for sure.
It wins 30 a year at least. It's amazing.
I tell you, but speaking of AJ, conversation I've had, recently with some of the guys, like especially at Motor Mile, they're like, man, we just really wish he'd come up here and race with us. You know what I mean? I know Doodle would really like to go head to head with him up there. And some of the other guys up there would really like to see him come up and see where he stacks up. And, I'm sure he'll be Kirby Gobble come down there, in a car, piece of crap and, was fairly competitive a few years ago. So, I'm sure, AJ come in there and, I'm sure he'd be, right in the mix.
I've seen that mod 4 Raven. They had like 17, 18. It was a bunch of cars.
Yeah.
And,
I believe it was 19 of them.
And Doodle started to fill the pack. Doodle just he just killed him. But he's a legend anyway. But them cars, man. I'm looking at them cars going, my God. It looks like a limited late model, most of them.
Yeah, they're nice.
They're real nice cars. I just don't know. I've never looked at her rules. I don't know how the rules stack up against stuff around here. I'm sure it's a little bit different.
They're not a lot. They're not way far off. They're within reason. The cars look a lot better up there, and I think a lot of them guys, really, they only race 10 times a year, if that. So they really do a good job of taking care of their cars, and their cars look a whole lot better, I think, than some of the guys down in the Carolinas that race, once or twice a weekend. You know what I mean? I think their cars look better, but I'm not sure that they're any faster. You know what I mean?
I don't see it. It looks intimidating because what they look like. But then again, now I'm thinking about it, some little orange 55, I don't know who this guy was. He was in a regular little Mustang mini stock starting the pole and led the first 5-6 laps.
Oh yeah, Alex Posey. Yep, he's a rookie too. He's actually I think he started on the pole or the outside pole both the last two races that they've had, the only two races that they've had this year, and led laps in both of them. I believe Kirby Gobble might be turning the wrenches on that thing, so I think that might be helping him out quite a bit.
Yeah, I've heard him. He's won a race or two.
I think he's probably won, one or 1,000, in mini stocks over the years for sure. I'm telling you, one of these shows we need to get the top 5 or 6 guys in our opinion in mini stocks or mod 4s and get them all together and set them down and have a conversation about how many wins they've had and where they've won at and all that.
Kirby Gobble, Doodle, AJ, Chuck Wall, and Michael Tucker. And we'll ask 3 questions, and then they'll be fighting in the floor.
We need to bring Brandon Clements probably needs to be in that conversation too. And there's probably a couple of other guys that we could put. Kevin Cantor now, man. That black 3 car that finished second to Doodle this past weekend. At Kingsport and Lonesome Pine over the last 2 or 3 years, he's really been whooping up on him pretty good.
Yeah.
So he's coming into the conversation. Of course, that's Rocky Yates' old car, I believe, and Rocky's his stepdad. And I believe he'd have to be, he's headed toward that conversation, anyways.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you something else. That another division racer, that Super Street division, I didn't know nothing about, never seen before. I watched them race. It was an okay race. It's all right. I enjoyed it. But then after the race, just talking to Dennis Holder and Kyle Barnes was in it. Right. And they just said that's the most fun car they've ever drove in their life. Kyle Barnes didn't even care if it's like 3rd or 4th. He didn't care. He's like, man, this is just so much fun. Those cars are. I think all tracks should take a look at that whole little division right there, and they should add that to a lot of tracks because it looks like a real good division to have. It's not real expensive, and it's really good racing.
Yeah, some of those cars are old Hooters Pro Cup cars or ARCA cars or whatever. Some of them are late models. Some of them are limited. Some of them are street stocks. They got a really good mix there, and they're all fairly competitive. Yeah. I'm telling you, man, that division, that idea, I believe Randy Merriman is the one who spearheaded that. He's the race director there at Motor Mile, and I believe that that might have been his greatest idea yet, because that division, I believe you can have any, do anything with the engine, you can have any carburetor, and you're on these 8-inch tires, and you got to make it work. And obviously Dennis Holdren really made it work this past weekend. If beating Scooter Hollingsworth, if you can beat that guy in that race, I mean, you've done something for sure.
Yeah, Dennis was the happiest he's ever been there, and I couldn't believe that's the first race he's ever won there in a big full body car.
Yep, I believe he's won some Mod 4 races, but I think it's the first.
But he said he finished second to Phillip like 8 or 9 times.
Oh, I can remember, man, when Dennis. I mean, there was a time when Dennis would qualify on the pole every week, and he'd lead the majority of the race, and then right there at the end, man, his car give up on him, or the guy behind him just get the best of him, or whatever situation was. And he's run really good there. Good to see him get him a victory. I believe that was kind of a last minute decision for them to just swap one of their older late models over, and that was
a late model that he won a championship with at Franklin County.
Well, I won't comment about the Franklin County portion of that, but that car, if you noticed, that was they had done that scheme last year. It was actually 09 because it was a tribute car to Rodney Sixpack Cundiff.
That's right.
And he changed the number to 99 because that was what was on the mini stock that he was racing last year too. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see him get a victory there. Of course, he won in that car with the 09 on it at Franklin County last year. And Sixpack spent a lot of time up there at Motor Mile, New River Valley Speedway back in the day when he was racing. And cool to see him take that scheme to victory lane up there too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so cool seeing Dennis win because that's the guy that. I mean, super nice family, and that guy loves to race. He just loves racing.
Truly, and he truly cherishes his victories. I know how excited he was last year at South Boston and winning the championship at South Boston, and he cherishes every accomplishment that he gets. And I think there's some racers that take that for granted, but I think Dennis is old enough that he's been around and he knows that they don't come easy.
Dude, Saturday night, it was such a long night, all the cautions and dragging out. And by the time that race was over, he got out and cheered. And I looked around because I thought there had to be 5,000 people here watching this. And I looked, there was about 50 people.
Right.
But he could care less as long as we were standing right there from, and he was just happy that he won the race. He was really excited.
Right, yeah, when you're the last division of 4 and it takes, 4 hours, 4.5 hours, whatever it was, to get to that point, there probably ain't going to be very many fans left in the stands. And that's unfortunate because, that Super Street, like we're talking about, I mean, that's, it may not be the best race of the night, but it's going to be one of the most interesting races every night just because of the mix of cars and the mix of people. I mean, there's young guys like Bryce Blake that's in the field there, and there's, Scooter Hollingsworth and Dennis Holdren is older, and then, of course, you got Wayne Corprew who came out of retirement to run an old ARCA or Hooters Procope car or something in it, and you got Kyle Barnes who's, he's not old, he's not young, he's kind of right in the middle, and he's raced a little bit of everything everywhere, and because you got that division not only has a great mix of cars, but it has a great mix of drivers too.
Yeah, and like Kyle Barnes said, he told me that car, he bought it from, and I remember the guy's name, Wally Latham, used to race Orange County.
Yeah.
And it was like an 05 chassis or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, they just bought this car probably for about next to nothing, and he said, man, this thing's fast everywhere I take it. They made it fast, you know what I mean? I mean, it's not a ton of money in that whole division, and guys are really, that's what racing is supposed to be. Yeah, that whole division right there. Not spending a bunch of money, and everybody, when they get done, no matter the guy finished 11th, he's happy as hell because he had fun racing,
No doubt about it. And you talk about them making that car fast. I mean, if you can make a car fast, Tim Barnes, his dad, and his uncle Anthony Barnes, who's won, races and championships, multiple racetracks, those two guys, they will figure out a way to make that thing fast. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and it was fast, but it just faded a little at the end, but it's a quick car.
No doubt. All right, you got anything else from this past weekend, or anything you're looking forward to this weekend, or anything else?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess on that note, since Corey's good, I guess we're going to be good, and we're going to wrap this thing up, and that'll do it for RACE22 Radio /podcast or whatever this is this week. Hopefully, we'll be back on live next Monday night if we can get everything figured out and get going back in the right direction. But until then, good night.
Hello? I must be going.
Thank you for listening to the RACE22 podcast. Keep us logged on to race22.com, covering all your favorite late model stock car racing action. And be on the lookout for more podcasts coming in the very near future. And we hope to see you trackside at a short track near you. Until then, we'll see you at the races.
But I am telling you, I must be